Hello friends and fellow passengers on this wild ride we call life. Today I want to talk to you about heavy metal. Heavy metal is my favorite genre. I am a metalhead and I've been a metalhead for decades. I love the camaraderie and loyalty among the fans. I love the guitar riffs, the fast picking, the technical aspect to it all. I love the solos. I love the screaming vocals. I love the fast double bass drumming. I love the aggression of it. I love that it has a built-in fuck you to everything that's wrong with the world. I love the attire, black leather and denim. That's up my alley, man. I've grown up with heavy metal since I was about 15 and always loved the aggression and the energy to the music. Feeling frustrations with the world, it has always been a great cathartic experience for me. Heavy metal combines raw energy with music complexity. I love how it helps to process anger and pain and the truth. I feel that heavy metal is an expression of truth without pretending the world is all sunshine. For me, heavy metal is not just about the aggression, it's about the release that comes with enjoying the music. I want to talk about my interpretation of heavy metal. I think for some, it has got a bad rap because it's perceived to glorify war and violence and evil and hate and the devil. And I feel like these themes are more symbolic than literal. Just like horror films aren't murder manuals, heavy metal is a way of exploring the darker sides of humanity. Sometimes heavy metal is reporting on events around the world. Sometimes it's satire, sometimes it's storytelling, and sometimes it's just fun. I want to talk about the loyalty and camaraderie of the metal community. Heavy metal is a brotherhood and a sisterhood of what I think are the most loyal fans in music. For many, being a metalhead is a lifelong identity, not just a phase. Being a part of the metal community, to me, feels like a worldwide family of outcasts who disagree with a lot of what's going on with the world, and the music is an outlet for that frustration. When you're at a metal show, it's a tribal experience. Everyone there is brothers and sisters coming together to celebrate heavy metal and the bands they're going to see that day. You know, if you're in the mosh pit and somebody goes down, there's 10 people pulling them up right away to make sure everything's okay. There is such a bond and community among metalheads that I love. A great example of this loyalty and camaraderie that I'm talking about is what we saw happen recently with the passing of Ozzy Osbourne. For anyone who doesn't know, Ozzy and Black Sabbath are the creators of heavy metal. There is so much love throughout the metal community for Ozzy and Black Sabbath. With the passing of Ozzy, we've seen all the greats in the heavy metal community come out with tributes and expressing what Ozzy and Black Sabbath meant to them. We also saw thousands and thousands of people gather for Ozzy's funeral procession in Birmingham and countless tributes left behind at the Black Sabbath Bridge, which was really overwhelming to see. And it occurred to me that there's not many people in this life that generate so much love and appreciation for who they are. And Ozzy was a truly special character that, helped create a whole genre for all of us heavy metal misfits. And while it was a sad moment for metalheads to say goodbye to a king, it was also healing to see everyone coming together and celebrate his life. Now I'm going to run through my top 10 heavy metal favorites list. Ozzy and Black Sabbath was the first heavy metal that I got into. For me, what really started to introduce me to Ozzy Osbourne was hearing No More Tears on the jukebox at the local pool hall constantly. And from there, I branched out and got the rest of his catalog and eventually got into the Black Sabbath catalog. So, check out No More Tears, Blizzard of Oz, and Diary of a Madman are also great albums. And then on the Black Sabbath side, you want to check out We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. That is a great best of featuring all of their greatest songs. Number 2 on that list, it was Metallica, and it was the Black Album for me that got me hooked on Metallica. I later went back and dug into And Justice for All and Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets. So much great music, and Metallica is where heavy metal started to branch into thrash metal. Things got a bit faster and a bit more aggressive. Metallica are also part of a movement called Bay Area thrash, where there was a bunch of thrash bands that came out of the Bay Area in San Francisco in the early 80s. After Metallica, the next band I got into was Pantera, Cowboys from Hell. That was a game changer. It brought a different groove to heavy metal. Dimebag's guitar playing, he's one of the greatest guitar players to have ever lived. Vinnie Paul's drumming brought something new. The drums were heavier and bigger, lots of double bass. Phil is an amazing vocalist, and on Cowboys from Hell, his vocals are insane, and his singing voice too. There's some really great melodic stuff on that album. After Pantera, I got into Slayer, and Slayer become my all-time favorite heavy metal band. They really pushed the speed on heavy metal. The riffs got faster and more technical. The drumming got faster, lots more double bass. The lyrical themes got heavier and darker. Rain and Blood, which is, kind of the quintessential Slayer album. That's a rite of passage for all metalheads. You definitely got to check out that one. Here's a fun story I have about Slayer. I had the opportunity to meet and hang out with them a couple times after shows. And, I was imagining these evil people, but they turned out to be like the coolest, most down-to-earth guys. They'd have fans hanging out by their tour buses, and they would always take time to sign autographs and be friendly with everybody and take pictures or whatever. Super nice guys. And they made some of the greatest heavy metal of all time. Next, I got into Death. They were another band that originated in the Bay Area, and they evolved thrash metal into death metal. Chuck Schuldiner is the main guy that was always involved with Death. He's since passed away. And the album I got into with Death was Symbolic. It went in a different direction with riffs. Lots of great guitar playing. Chuck Schuldiner was such a great technical player, and his lyrical themes seemed to touch more on philosophical ideas rather than satanic and war and violence that some of the other bands touched on. But Symbolic also highlights what I think is the best of Gene Hoglan's drumming. His drumming is, it's from another planet. So good. I played that album and went through so many batteries in my Discman. After getting into Death, I just went off the deep end with death metal. So there's a couple other bands here I'll mention that were pretty influential to me, and the early bands I was in. Deicide, they had an album called Once Upon a Cross. Deicide's lyrics were very satanic based, but again, for me, it's a commentary. I'm not into Satanism or anything like that, but the topics are interesting. The lyrics were cool, and it's kind of a bit of a fuck you to the establishment. After Deicide, then there's a band called Cannibal Corpse, which is brutal death metal again, and it was more gore-based, touching on themes of violence and murder, insane drumming, insane riffs, lots of good headbanging moments. Here's a Cannibal Corpse fun story. Around 2000, I was in a death metal band, and we got to open for Cannibal Corpse. And at that time, they were like my favorite band. I was so into them at the time, so it was super cool to get to open for them and hang out with them a bit. After Cannibal Corpse is a band called Testament, another Bay Area thrash band from the 80s. The album that turned me on to them was The Gathering, which featured Dave Lombardo drumming, who was the original drummer for Slayer, who wasn't with the band at that time. It's a really cool album, lots of great riffs. Testament had a way of doing guitar riffs. It was a little bit different than everybody else that I really was into. Chuck Billy, the vocalist, insane vocalist. He can sing beautiful melodies. He's also got a crazy scream and crazy guttural, brutal vocals. They're a great band all around. The next band on my list is Anthrax, who came from the New York area. They were thrash as well, and they brought a little bit more fun to heavy metal. Talked about the similar themes that the other metal bands were doing at the time. They have songs about comic book heroes. They also touched on other fun topics. I think they were probably the first band to do a collaboration where they were fusing together metal and rap. They did a song called Bring the Noise with Public Enemy. My fun story about Anthrax is I saw them open for Pantera in '97. I'd have this vision burnt into my brain of seeing them come up on stage, and there was a moment in a song where they had the guitarists on either side of the stage, and they had red floodlights coming up at them. So they were like glowing red, and it was like the coolest stage visual to this date that I think I've ever seen. They were so good live at that show. Blew me away. And the last metal band on this list I'm going to bring up is Anvil. So here's some Canadian pride. They are very influential to the metal world. Some of the songs on their 1982 album Metal on Metal are almost like templates for the subgenres of metal that would come in the following years. In the early 80s, they were becoming a pretty big band and playing some big shows. And then in the mid 80s, I think they had some issues with their management. The two main guys, Lips and Rob Reiner, they kept making metal together all the way through to this day. There was a movie made about them, The Story of Anvil. Check it out, great documentary that celebrates their partnership and their commitment to make it in heavy metal. Since that movie came out, you know, their careers have spiked again. The album that really got me into them was an album called Plugged In Permanent. Like Anthrax, I feel like Anvil brought some fun to heavy metal, and while mixing the more serious topics, they also had songs about metal unity, Mothra, hell, smoking cannabis, all sorts of other stuff. And Rob Reiner is a genius drummer, and in my metal band Joe Thrasher, Anvil were a big influence to us. Anvil had a unique groove that they used quite a bit, and we would always call it the Rob Reiner groove. Great backbeat over fast double bass. So good. So good to headbang too. So there you have it. This is what heavy metal means to me. This is some of my favorite bands, albums, and songs. Metalhead welcomes everybody who wants to be a part of metal. So if you're a metalhead at heart, give me a horns in the comment. Let me know some of your favorite metal songs and what you like about heavy metal. Anything you love about heavy metal, I want to hear it. Let me know in the comments. And until next time, stay well, fellow passengers.